It's that time of the year where I'm very happy as well as very sad. For the last 4 years, when I started my own podcast, which is Masters Decoded, it was a journey which I didn't expect and didn't know where it's going to go. But let me tell you, it's been a far fulfilling journey for me. And I'm here to share few learnings which I've had today, covering 3 seasons in the last 4 years of Masters Decoded. I know it's a very personal and emotional moment for me, as we have called the shutters on season 3. We'll soon be coming with season 4 starting January, and I cannot reveal all the guests and I want to keep it surprise to you, but we have some amazing guests lined up and amazing topics which we would be covering on season 4. However, before we get to season 4, just want to share a few learnings which I've had along the way, especially covering the season 3. When I started my podcast, I had a very rigid mindset that I will be covering topics like AI, technology, and career, and yada yada yada. Let me tell you, as I got into season 2 and how season 3 has unfolded, I surrendered to the entire experience of creating and sharing stories of others on the platform, and that has been such a wonderful experience for me. And when I relate it back to my life and when I see others as well, that when we get into something, we always think about the end goal. We always think about that this is what I want to be or where I want to achieve. But when we take our first step, there are 20 more steps or 30 new steps which we had never planned for. And that's what exactly happened to me as I went through the journey of my second and third season of my podcast. The second piece, which was fascinating for me, is I always feared, and this was, I have shared this story, I don't know, on this platform, but it took me 3 years to start my own podcast. It's not because I didn't have time, it's not because I was not ready for it, it was just self-doubt. Self-doubt in many aspects. One, whether I will look good. That's why the first 2 seasons were only audio only. My voice will be okay. I'll be able to ask the right questions. I'll be able to have a good communication skills, because personally, if you have to ask me, I'm the biggest introvert in my life, and going ahead and talking to strangers, asking them very personal and intimate questions was something which I had never experienced. And it's just been fascinating how the guests on the shows have made me comfortable, and invariably I've been able to make them comfortable in the set of questions and the areas which we've had conversations on. And that really helped me to strike a conversation, make good friends on the podcast, and I really cherish that friendship, and also bring those shows and topics to many of you. The third area is talking to strangers. There is a very famous YouTube channel called Yes Theory, and I follow it and I see it. And the concept of Yes Theory is that you say yes to everything. And I have started doing that very recently. When I used to shortlist, when I used to reach out to guests, I was very rigid that I needed certain set of people and certain background of people. But then what I did is, when my team started bringing a different variety of guests to me, and I said, yes, let's go ahead and have a conversation. Though I didn't do any research, I didn't know anything about many of them. Yes, there have been friends and acquaintances on the show whom I know, and I've been able to have a conversation with them. But many of the guests on the show have been strangers. And talking to strangers is a very interesting and a unique perspective, which you may be in for a surprise, which really opens up your mind. And that's what has happened to me in the last 3 seasons. Though my team was preparing for questions, that these are the questions you ask the individuals who are coming on the show, I decided that I will not even look at those questions. And before the show started recording, I told many of the guests that, hey, I've not come prepared. I've just come to meet you and talk to you as if I have met you over a coffee, and we are having a chat over a coffee in a nice coffee shop, though some of the conversations have been virtual. So we will just go with the flow. And I built up those questions which you have seen me asking on the show. So talking to strangers and building perceptions about people, or getting into a conversation with certain perceptions, is always a bad strategy. And that is another tip which I have learned as part of my journey on the podcast. The fourth tip is something which has been really personal for me. When I started, I would say my own personal brand was not out there. This intention was never to build my own personal brand. Yes, there was an intention to share my perspective, share my stories through other stories with the larger universe. And I can tell you that if you're seriously thinking of creating your personal brand, podcast is an amazing medium. Either do your own podcast or feature on somebody else's podcast. I can tell you, it sounds easy, it looks easy, but it is not. Which brings into my fifth tip is it's taught me a lot. Audio mixing, video mixing, creativity skills, talking to people, understanding how you conduct shows, how do you learn to interact and engage with people and keep them connected, keep them live, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours as part of the conversation. It's been a fascinating learning experience for me personally. So in a nutshell, these are the key areas which I have learned over the last many podcasts which I have done. And I'm really thankful to each and every guest who's shown up on the podcast. But there's one more thing which I really want to share, that each one of us have a different side. And some of the podcasts have shown the different side of individuals who, from the outside world, from the digital world, we may never be able to get to know them. And that other side has really emerged and immersed in those conversations. And I hope, I don't want to take the names and spoil the conversations and only make you focus on those conversations. In fact, it's fascinating for me to uncover during those conversations and being completely unprepared how those conversations and how those thoughts of the guest have come out. So if you haven't yet heard any of the shows, or if you've missed any of the shows, the entire season 3 is available, as well as season 1 and season 2 is available on this YouTube channel. So go ahead. We decide to take a break at the end of the year to ensure that we recoup, re-energize our entire energy so that we come back with a bang, and hopefully in 2024 we'll see you in season 4.